Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Delighted you could stay. We're really nearly at the very end of this wonderful, wonderful careers fair. And I think, the general consensus is that it's worked very well. We've left the good wine, will we say, the star wine, literally in the case of Briege Corkery. 15 all-stars for camogie and for football. An absolutely amazing achievement. And this session is about women in agriculture. Is there a place for them? Is there a role for them? Why are we so invisible in so many ways in agriculture? And then what are the opportunities? So as I say, I'm joined by an all-star cast, starting with Briege Corkery at the far end. And we have you want to tell us some of your background. One of the things people might not know about you is that you're actually a stonemason, apart from all your other qualifications.
I suppose I'm an outdoor girl. So I did trainee actioneer. I did 3 months of college, didn't like it. Did trainee actioneer for a year, and I suppose it just wasn't for me. So then one of my friends, he was stonemasoning, so I asked could I fall in with him for a bit, and then I trained under him for about four and a half years.
Yeah, I said it to Briege earlier. If I died now, would she be able to do my headstone for me? And she says, without a problem. So that's one of your skills. But you also worked in a veterinary clinic, again, packing in your outdoor work. But now, since you've got married, you're gone share milking. Now, explain to people what share milking is, because not everybody might know.
So I came from a dairy background at home. My boyfriend at the time, I suppose, had only worked in beef, and we went off to Australia in 2009. And we worked milking cows there. So when we came home in the end of 2010, Dermot said he'd go into farming. He loved it. So he started farming down in Crookstown with Michael Bateman, and I went off doing the veterinary clinic, inside the veterinary clinic. And then Dermot, Michael Bateman put it to him, would he be interested in doing share milking? So I started off relief milking for Michael first, Michael and Dermot, my husband, and then we moved on to the share milking last year.
And that means you're bringing the cows into the equation, and you're taking a percentage of the profits from the dairy enterprise on the basis of your share of the business.
Yeah, so we went in with, I suppose, we just went in as workers, and Mike put it to us, we're currently trying to build our stock at the moment.
Right.
So we've bought heifers and we've bought yearling heifer calves. So Mike's providing the land for us. We're doing a lot of the work. Mike is also working as well, but we're paying percentage of all the bills,
right,
and we're getting a percentage of the
Now you do know that in New Zealand, Jack Kennedy, you can clarify this, that this share milking thing and the work that people put themselves under takes a heavy toll on relationships. Isn't that true, Jack?
I suppose maybe it does, but I think I run out the door every evening to train, so that gives us a break to calm down anyway. So.
All right. And you're fully engaged in both camogie and football as well for this season as well.
I'm going to give it a try.
You haven't got enough medals, no? I think, is it how many? 10 senior football championship medals and 6 All-Ireland camogie medals. I mean, that's an amazing haul.
I suppose we've been very lucky to come up with a bunch of girls that just want to work hard together, and to play to the best of their ability. And I suppose that comes into the kind of work I've done the last couple of years. I enjoyed the bit of hard work, the bit of hard labour, but the most important thing is that I enjoy it. And yeah.
All right. Well, listen, that's we can go then to the other topic, but that's where you're coming from. Practical farming, share milking. A new concept, and you're embracing it. And the plan is to go to what, 250 cows within 5 years?
Yeah, so in about 5 years. We've just started building stock, and I suppose maybe along the way, hopefully going upskilling. I suppose I'm new into the dairy farming, and Dermot is relatively new as well. He's done his green cert and things like that. So hopefully maybe in a year or two, that's my plan, is to go into do my green cert and move on from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie, everybody knows you from the ploughing, and they know your mum. and, you know, a fantastic role model to have, built the biggest outdoor event in the world. But your path into the MPA and to another role wasn't exactly straightforward. You've a number of different types of employment and experience.
Yes, Mairead, I suppose insofar as...
No, I think this one is dead, is it?
Hello?
Yeah. You're not.
I started off background farming as well. We're dry stock farmers at home in County Laois, and ploughing was always there because Mum was always involved in ploughing all my life. So, you know, she got free labour in the middle of the summer doing the photocopying or sticking the stamps on the envelopes and stuff like that for years. And then I suppose when college time came, I had a big interest in the whole marketing and business and all that sector because I was very involved in Marketing Firma as a volunteer at the time. And I went and studied business and marketing, and from there I worked for a short time in Bordnamona, just a temporary stint. And I went, after studying marketing and business, I went away in a different direction altogether and became a professional youth worker with Briege. And very interesting, very exciting. Did that for 3 years, and a huge grounding, absolutely a huge grounding to work with the youth, and a very, very good time for me career-wise. And after that, I got the opportunity to come work with the MPA. Hesitant, I have to say, because ploughing just was so much part of our lives. And I said, look, I'd look at it. It was a 2-year project. Come and coordinate a World Ploughing Contest in Ireland from 94 to 96. Took it on, loved it, and I suppose it's kind of history after that.
Well, it's history to an extent in that you're involved and very much involved, you know, with the National Ploughing Championships. But you've got another string to your bow, which a lot of people mightn't realise. There's 33 affiliates to the World Ploughing Championship.
Yes.
And you're the Secretary General.
Yeah.
You're basically the person, the Chief Executive of World Ploughing.
Yeah.
Right from one end of the globe to the other.
I know. You make it sound more difficult, actually.
No, but that's actually the role, you know,
is,
and to coordinate all of that and to run the championships right across the world.
Yeah, that came up 3 years ago, and I suppose, you know, there's 2 things you always have to do, I think, career-wise. Further your education and, you know, kind of keeping up with what's happening, but then also challenging yourself. Like, my job is challenging with the national, you know, you never have a minute, but at the same time, you always hear the expression, if you want something done, go to a busy person. And the opportunity came up for General Secretary of the World Ploughing. It comes up maybe once or twice in a lifetime. It came up 3 years ago, and we talked about it and said, look, will we try and make it happen?
You had a 2-year-old little boy at
I
that
did at the
stage.
time, yeah. And I suppose the best interview you ever do is the one that you don't want to get. So I went off to Amsterdam to do the interview, really didn't care about the job whatsoever, was thrilled when I heard nothing for a week, and then I got an email to say congratulations. And I can remember still, I'd hit the wall at the back with the phone, I flung the phone so hard, said, now you have it. I just said to Anna, now you have it. And the same day, we were going to a funeral, and we got the notice at 9 in the morning, and we didn't eat. Either of us didn't eat until 6 o'clock that evening.
Right.
We got such a fright, because it was daunting, you know, 33 countries to be in charge of.
Yeah.
And it's challenging, it's demanding. We have a world contest every year. The timing with our national can be very tight. Last year I left the morning after our national to go to the World, and that's a 10-day programme of meetings and regulations, and obviously you have to have a result of a world contest at the end, so pretty tight and important things to be doing.
One of the things you were telling me in our discussions about it beforehand is that while, you know, women aren't that terribly obvious in a lot of areas of agriculture but are becoming a lot more obvious, you would have seen a little bit of reaction to you as the General Secretary from other countries.
I would,
that you would have had to be better to do the job.
I suppose one of the elements of that would be that the World Organization is 63 years in existence, and I was the first female officer of any sort. So, you know, people in the beginning were very apprehensive about would you be able to do the job, and you could sense that, and waiting for you to fall. Always waiting for it to fall, or waiting for it to make a mistake, questioning what you're doing more than they would have questioned their male counterparts.
Right.
I'd still find that. I feel you do have to go the extra mile. You know, nobody wants to know what you have to do at home to get there, that you have family and you have to get the house ready, or you have to get the kids out of school. They don't want to know that you're at the table and you must perform equally, if not better, than the men around the table.
So when you're at work, you're at work, and when you're at home, you're at home.
Absolutely.
That's the story. And you've also broken some barriers in terms of being the first assistant secretary in the female assistant secretary in the Department of Agriculture, and I think you're also the first female of 2 now on the senior management team. So maybe if you can just give us a bit of your background.
Yes, Mairead, I suppose I did. I'm very glad. I've two other female colleagues on the MAC now, so there's three of us there. Briege Cannon, who's another assistant
But that's
secretary.
the first time there's been female since the foundation of the state.
It is, yeah. So
Yeah.
this year was
It took a long
momentous
time,
year.
ladies, didn't it?
It did. But I think, it's fantastic to see that. And I think the department, it's great for us to have a diversity on our management team.
Right.
So
Your own background then,
my own background, I joined the department a long, long time ago. I joined it when I left school back in 1980, and I joined as an executive officer then. And I really wanted to be a vet, so I was saving up basically to go back to college. I left the following year and went back to UCD and did veterinary. And when I qualified, I worked for 6 years in practice here in Ireland and in the UK for a while in Wales. And I suppose I had a family and 3 kids, and I was working in Sligo at the time when the department advertised. And I joined for a while, not thinking I'd stay and not sure where it would take me. And it's just been a fabulous career. Worked with amazing people. We have a great team.
And you went from veterinary to economics and
I
became
did,
the chief
yeah,
economic advisor in the department.
I kind of went a circuitous route. An opportunity came up when I was working in Donegal to go out to Madrid to work in the Embassy of Ireland in Madrid. And that was great. So I upped sticks and went. I had 4 small kids then. So we moved out to Madrid and I lived there for 6 years. It was a great opportunity. I think it gave you a great opportunity to see kind of the potential to market our exports abroad.
Right.
And there was a lot of trade with Spain at that time, so it was really great. It was out at the forefront and talking to people. I think it's been a great opportunity. The department is such a diverse organisation, and really, regardless of where you start in the organisation, it's a stepping stone.
Well,
and it
one
can
of
take you
the
anywhere.
stands that's been the busiest here today has been the Department of Agriculture stand, because the jobs embargo has been lifted, and you're now in the process, starting the process of filling 200 positions. They're an enormous array of positions.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you here today, because this has just been an amazing event. It's been non-stop all day, and I know some of our team are here and they haven't had a moment to draw breath. It's just been constant. It's been absolutely brilliant. It's great for morale in the department to see such enthusiasm, and there's so many people from such diverse backgrounds that are interested in joining us. So that's been great. We are recruiting. We're going to recruit up to 200 people this year. The first competition will be announced within the month. It's for technical officers. So anyone with a leaving cert and with, if they've got their green cert in agriculture, that's what we're looking for, so level 6. And they recruited through the public appointment service. So the message today, and we've been telling everyone, is if you're interested in a career in the department, register with publicjobs.ie. If you go online and do that, you'll get email alerts to tell you when the competitions are coming out. So the first one is for our technical inspectors, and it's going to be, jobs in factories, jobs in food businesses, out in the field. So it's a really interesting opportunity.
Oh, that's excellent. But it's certainly the interest there's been in the stand has been amazing.
It's been fabulous, yeah.
Briege, coming back to you, in terms of you now going into share milking and milking, do you find yourself a woman in a man's world? Are you going on farm walks or discussion groups or anything like that where you're maybe one of very few women involved actively?
I suppose the first few farm walks, or the first one I went to, I was amazed by the amount of women that were involved. I actually thought they'd be a lot less, but I think it's growing more and more. I suppose it's kind of nice to have someone beside me, a girl beside me as well, just to kind of a bit of moral support. I was speaking to you earlier, I suppose the first person, when I told I was going share milking, the first person that gave out to me was my mother. She told me to stay in the cushy job, the 9 to 5. But you don't know where it's going to lead us, and I suppose I jumped on an opportunity to, expand experience and things like that. So you just have to go by what you feel you're comfortable with, and at the time I felt comfortable going into it. So. I do think it's probably more male orientated, or it is more orientated, but there's more and more females getting in, which is great.
And there's nothing to stop women. The work is doable, absolutely.
It's not much to it. It's not like before where you were piking and there's machinery for everything now.
There is.
It's a lot easier now.
No, I used to milk plenty of cows in my time, so I don't know. I never knew what the fuss was about.
Yeah.
And you were talking as well in terms of, women and their representation. One of the areas where, women in terms of maybe power in ownership, we're talking about 12% land ownership in country in the hands of women. But where families, men and women, can make a huge difference is in terms of the joint ownerships. And we are really miserly when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely, Mairead. I think it's very disappointing to see that so few herds are still registered in joint names. It's 2.2% of herds, and it's really hard to understand that because women play such an important role, on farms in Ireland. They often do all the record keeping. They're out on farm, they're rearing calves. It's really hard to understand why women don't have ownership rights on the farm and on the animals.
Yeah.
What I noticed when I was in Spain was that it was a totally different situation there. There was, in terms of the stats, 30% of the land in Spain would be owned by women. Here in Ireland, it's less than 10%. And it just, in terms of their visibility in the sector, I think you mentioned earlier that women are largely invisible. In Spain, you've got very, very large, very politically active movements for farm women. FAMER was a big one at the time. And they just had a very dynamic presence. And I think it's really important that we do try and encourage more women to take an active role in decision making on farms because it makes the farms more economically viable. Women are actually fantastic in terms of spotting opportunities for on-farm diversification. And, whether it's primary processing, whether it's, maybe agri-tourism initiatives, whether it's getting into direct sales, women are fabulous at that.
I remember you once gave us the information on an American study of 1.6 million farms, and they found that where there was joint decision-making, the farms were so much more profitable.
Yeah, women do play a key role in terms not just profitability but sustainability and viability of family farms, and that's been replicated here in Europe as well. There was a Greek study that showed the same. So if you're looking at the long-term sustainability and the viability of a family farm, registering the farm, having a joint partnership arrangement between husband and wife is a really secure way to do that. And then, it means that even if you think about farm succession, that intergenerational transfers, so you've got both parents working on the farm and then registering, one of the offspring as well. It's a great way to keep the family business going. And often it gives them momentum to grow the business into the future. Yeah. So a lot of the farms that have been really successful, women often have different perspectives, different skill sets, different educational qualifications, and they've so much to bring to farming. I often think it's a shame when you hear women moving off farm to look for employment, because if they were actually involved in the decision making on the farm and had real ability to get new enterprises going, I think rural Ireland would be far the better for it.
Well, look at in Country Living every week we highlight women who are running their businesses and men as well. And it's central to what we do. Anna Marie, you're out all over the world now over the last 3 years. What have you noticed in terms of the culture with women on farms?
Well, like you're saying, in a lot of the other countries, particularly in Europe, it's not automatic that it's the son is going to be the farmer. Some countries have the structure that the eldest member of the family, male or female, will really have first choice. And it wouldn't be unusual at all for a female to be farming. Now, at the same time, when you say about how many men here are the owners, the checkbooks. I often notice if you were just getting a farmer to pay for something, it'll always be the man's name is on the checkbook, which is amazing. And we'd even see at the ploughing so many of the small businesses and particularly the food businesses, it's the women that have the farm enterprise. A lot of the women have motivated it. But while I say to you earlier about that I find in the business end of things, you're looked at a little bit internationally being the kind of the loud woman that's actually has pushed her way up to the top. But at the same time on farm enterprise, the women again are they're the ones that are motivators and kind of very involved in the decision making and developing the farm. Very involved in that. But not as much of an issue, I think, internationally about women owning or part owning farms. And I think that's more of a thing here. The family name, keeping the family name to the next generation.
And
we still have that
what
stigma.
Kind of an age he is,
Wouldn't
as long
matter.
as the name is kept.
And if he's out every night drinking or whatever, he's still the son that carries the family name.
Yeah, no, it has huge resonance with families.
It's very true. It's still it's out there. I don't know. My area.
Well, the McHugh survey. The McHugh did a survey a few years ago, and it was one of the biggest impediments to girls taking over. The fact that actually a percentage of farmers would leave a farm to a nephew.
I'm just even with Ann now. And had you brothers, Ann? Sorry, Marie. Briege, had you brothers?
5 brothers.
And are any of them farming?
The oldest brother, Sean.
But it didn't. You're so interested in it. But it didn't. Did it ever really come up about you being the one taking over the farm at home?
Not when I was the 9th. I was the ninth child, so I'm way too bad.
No choice at all.
You might have had some chance if you were the 10th. Like, so, you know, the youngest, because there's 10 in your family. We're talking about women being the entrepreneurs, being the people to do the adapting. I mean, what you're doing, Briege, in terms of share milking, I mean, that's pretty new to Ireland. Are there many families actually share milking? Because, you know, in your case, you're building the stock, you're providing labour, but you don't have an acre of land. So, you know, are there other role models in the country for you to work with?
I suppose we've been to kind of Moore Park, had a lot of talks there. Myself and Dermot went to them through his discussion group, and they've just been a few people that have gone into kind of the same kind of thing. But I suppose it's more New Zealand based, you know. So there's a few young lads over by us. Andrew Cronin, he's gone into it as well. So that's kind of where the idea started out. I suppose the milk quota going was the
right.
It's kind of a real New Zealand-based thing, like, so it's just really starting off.
But for someone, for a young woman where the land is not going to go to you, you can still now be a farmer because this model is there and you're pioneering it.
Yeah, so like I suppose I've always had an interest in farming, and I'm just delighted. I suppose this opportunity has come up. You know, it is. I had nothing. You know, 2 years ago we had nothing. I suppose now we have a bit of stock built up as it is.
Yeah.
The heifers and the yearling heifers. So we're growing slowly but surely. It's a 5-year plan, so we'll just. It's nice to have that opportunity.
Okay.
It's very special. I just think what's really special about what you're doing is the fact that we know a lot of young people, and if they don't have land, if they don't have land, they think we can never get involved in land. And you're really showcasing now that yes, you can. You don't have to have the farm at home to actually go into that career, and that's really positive.
Yeah. And I suppose, Anne, in terms of, you know, the new arrangements in terms of long-term leasing and everything, you know, it actually makes leasing a lot more attractive, and rather than the Conacre system. You were also then just, if you want to comment on that, but you've established the Acorns project, and the first group of women are completing it now. So maybe a little bit about that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We decided in the department, we were looking at the CEDRA report, which basically talked about the gap in terms of entrepreneurship in a lot of rural areas and how they were lagging behind in terms of economic recovery. So feeling that women had a huge role to offer in terms of entrepreneurship, we decided to put out a tender for a program. So what we've got is a program which involves peer mentoring, basically. It's run by Paula Fitzsimons and Fitzsimons Consulting. And what they did was they put out an ad and basically looked for women who'd set up a business in the last 2 years or who were just about to start a business. And they got over 200 applicants, and from that 48 women were selected. And they're just completing their 6 months of peer mentoring now. So the way it works, there's an established female businesswoman who set up her own business, and she leads the group, and it's a group of 8 women. So there's 6 groups of 8, and they're scattered throughout the country, and they're women in a really diverse range of different businesses. A lot of them are food business related, but not all. They're every different type of service business you can think of. And it's been very, very successful because it's really about sharing information, sharing knowledge, sharing, you know, ideas about access to finance, getting into the export sector.
And I think, I mean, in terms of it's going for a growth market as well,
it is.
And it's looking at the export market, and I think something like 61% of them grew the business, and 31% went into exports.
That's right. Well, there's been a very successful model that's been rolled out by Enterprise Ireland called Going for Growth, and it's the same, and it's the same model, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Over 5 years, it's shown in enormous growths in terms both of employment, the companies involved, and then also in terms of their export growth. So the idea is it's there for women who are experienced entrepreneurs to share their learning and to share their expertise with other women. And I think it's a model that's worked everywhere. If you look at Teagasc and the discussion groups, you know, knowledge transfer, they see that peer transfer, listening to somebody else who's gone that route before you, is the best way to actually learn.
The old saying, show and tell, show and tell. Anne-Marie, again, back to you. Agriculture, the agri-food sector, the agri-business sector, is it a place for women?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You had Noreen Lacey, a next door neighbour of mine, up here just before from AIB, and you have many women. Now look at yourself, and you're a leading light in the agri sector. It's improving, as you say. There's so many more ladies now there, and you're starting your area, Briege, too. So we're developing, we're getting there. We're not there. We're not there at all yet. We've a long way to go.
Yeah.
And there's the whole issue, you know, of kind of what a lot of international countries do with creches and everything, helping young women in that sector. But I think we're getting there. Women are brilliant in business. We've proved that.
And would you support quotas when it comes to co-op boards?
I think that there's good enough women out there. There's good enough women out there. They have to be given the opportunity. There's no question of the ability. I don't think there's any question. And any college in the country would tell you that when people are qualifying, the quality of the females coming out is equally, if not better, than the males. So if it takes that, so be it. But I think we can break the men down.
What do you want, quotas?
Yeah, well, I think quotas have a place, but I think, you know, it's very unfortunate if food businesses around the country don't see the absolute, you know, real advantages to including women on their boards, because if you think of the insights, like businesses now, it's in a competitive industry globally. What we're looking at is we're looking at consumer insights, and women have so much. When you think we're a country that are exporting, you know, infant formula around the world, and yet some of the companies have no women on their boards at all, and I think that's an absolute shame.
Yeah.
Like, surely women's insights and women's experience, women's knowledge, you know, must bring an increase in terms of perspectives to the board. And it's been shown internationally. All the McKinsey studies have shown that more diverse boards actually, you know, make a difference in terms of the bottom line, in terms of the profit margin. So I just think it's a terrible wasted opportunity. I'd hope quotas wouldn't be necessary, that businesses would actually see the business case for including more women on their boards and really developing and training women, you know, within the business to take a more prominent role. So.
And finally, Briege, yourself, would you see yourself running for the advisory board for your local co-op?
Honestly, probably not me, but I can see there's a lot of great women out there. I know women at home that are gone into farming, gone into egg science and all, egg science and stuff, and I'm sure they'd be well able for it, but probably not me.
I think you're more than well able for it, and you're able to muscle your way around a football and camogie pitch, so I think you'd muscle your way around the board as well. Ladies, thank you very much for your contribution this evening and for being here so late with us, and thank you everybody for being here and for coming in to support this session. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.